Okay, so I've decided to do this video to help improve your first driving lesson. Because on a first driving lesson there's a lot of talking at the beginning, and I just thought if I can put some of that talking into a video for you guys to watch, that will help speed the process up on the day, which will give you more time driving. Okay, the kind of things that I talk about at the beginning, I always like to introduce myself, just explain a little bit about myself so you know what kind of person I am in general. I then move on to explaining about my teaching methods, coaching methods that I use, so you're kind of getting a bit of an idea of what to expect once the lesson actually starts. Okay, I then move on to explaining about a progress card, so that'll show you how you're going to get to. I've actually got one here, so you've got a progress card here. Okay, and this will actually show you how you're going to get from complete novice, which is all this side, and then you're going to make your way up to independent, which I'm going to go through in a bit more detail later on in the video. Okay, but that's the kind of thing that I end up showing people. Let's pop that back there on the test. But again, it's just taking up a bit of the time that I thought I could put it into a video, and then you guys can actually watch it. I'll send it through probably like a day or two before your first driving lesson. You can then watch the video back, and then, like I say, that'll just save you, because you'll have watched that at home rather than sitting in the car. It'll just save 10 or 15 minutes having watched the video, and that means you're going to obviously get 10 or 15 minutes extra driving. So hopefully it's useful. Okay, so this part is about my teaching style and the teaching methods that I use. Okay, because I like to use a mixture of what I call teaching and coaching. And the difference between the two is teaching is mainly me telling you what you need to do. Okay, because if you're a complete novice, never driven before, genuinely don't know what the pedals are or anything like that, that's down to me then to teach and explain everything in detail. Okay, now coaching is when somebody gets in the car that's already got a little bit of knowledge. So instead of me sitting there teaching and telling them things and they might be sitting there thinking, well, I already know that, I like to then find out what knowledge they have got. So it then becomes more of a Q&A session rather than me just telling them what to do. So to give you like two scenarios that are similar, let's say we've got a complete novice got in the car. I get them to a point where they're about to drive off and they stall the car. Now, a complete novice isn't going to know why they stalled it. So what I would do is I would explain why it stalled, and then I'll also explain what they can do to make sure that it doesn't happen again when they try pulling off. And then we carry on, have another go at it and go from there. Now, somebody that comes to me and says they probably had 5 lessons or so already and they know how to move off and stop. So with that, instead of me teaching them what to do and telling them exactly what to do, I'd say, okay, so I'd ask them a few questions first. I'd say, so how did you get the car prepared when you moved off? And then they would tell me, oh, they set the gas and they got their bike point. Okay. So I'd be just listening to the information and the feedback that they're giving me. If it all sounded okay, I'd say, okay, just drive on as you would do on your previous lesson, and we'll take it from there. So going back so that it's compared to the one before, let's say they pulled off and they stalled. Now, when I'm teaching, as I said a moment ago, I'd have to then start telling them everything. If it's coaching, the difference here would be they've stalled it, I'd ask them if they knew why it stalled. If they knew why it stalled, I would then say, well, what do you need to do differently next time when you pull off so that it doesn't happen again? And I'd be listening to the feedback that they're giving me. If the feedback is correct, I'd then say, okay, let's try it again. If the feedback is incorrect, I'd then explain what needs to go. So it's just starting to mix between teaching and coaching. And that's the difference between the two. So to kind of summarise with that, teaching is me in your ear non-stop, explaining how things need to be done and explaining why things are done, because I don't just like to tell you how things are done, I like to understand why they're done as well. Okay, coaching is when I can see people have got a little bit of an understanding, so it becomes a bit more of a Q&A session, and I'll be kind of watching and using, just trying to get some of the knowledge out of them, of the information that they've got. So you'll always start off, if you're a complete novice, you'll start off with teaching, and it will end up developing into me coaching as the lessons progress. So that's the kind of methods that I use for that. Another thing that I like to go over, and I like to make it very clear on the first lesson, is please, 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 if ever I'm explaining anything that you don't understand, just tell me, okay? Because I've got several methods of explaining the same thing, so I'll explain it in different ways. Because sometimes if I'm explaining something verbally, it might just not make any sense at that point. So I can literally I can draw diagrams to help explain things. I've got videos to help explain things. I can also do demonstrations where I'll take you out to the driver's side, you jump into the passenger side, I'll do a quick demonstration, and sometimes just watching me do it can help you understand what's expected. So at no point feel silly, just genuinely just say to me, sorry, I didn't understand that. Because I'll always start off verbally, just telling you what's expected and things like that. But if you don't understand it, just say, I didn't understand that. Or if you feel you need me to repeat it, just say, because then, like I say, I've got all those other methods to help you understand it. Okay? Okay, so with this bit, I'd just like to stress that I'm not expecting you on your first lesson to remember everything that I've explained. Because the amount of information I give you on that first lesson, plus you've got the nerves and the adrenaline pumping through you, some of it can go over your head on that first lesson. Don't worry about that. What I always like to say is if you can just go away and go home and you've remembered 2 or 3 things out of the amount of information I've given you on that first lesson, that's fantastic, okay? Because it will all come and your nerves gradually calm down as the lessons progress, okay? So I'm never expecting you to remember everything, okay? The other thing is, because on the first lesson, I like to go through all of these. This is one of my Bibles that you'll see a lot in the car. So there'll be what we call the cockpit drill in your first lesson. And I'll be going over all of that when you do actually get in the car. I need to go over that with you in the car, okay? And we've got your mirrors and zones of vision, controls that I'll go over, and moving off and stopping. And that's the whole process that you're going to be required to do on your first lesson. That is exactly everything that you'll be going through on your first lesson. And as I just said at the start of this, I'm not expecting you to remember all of that. Because in a moment, I'm going to be showing you the progress card and other things that I like to send through. Because with the progress card and the sheets out of my Bible down there, after the lesson, I usually send all that information through to you in PDF format, so it'll come through to your phone or your tablet or PC. So after that, and this is another reason why I say you don't have to remember it all, because you can go home, try and digest as much of it as you can, and then I send you a message through, and everything that I've shown you there is going to be there on your phone. So you're going to be able to just have a little flick through and kind of refresh it all in your head when you're in a bit more of a calm environment, sitting in your own front room. Okay, so it's not vital that over time you will obviously remember everything, don't get me wrong. But to start with, especially on that first lesson, the amount of information that I'll bombard you with, like I said, if you can go on with 2, 3, 4 bits of the information that's stuck in there naturally, I'll send you the rest of it through anyway. Okay, so next up I'm going to be showing you just a little bit of a clip on the progress card and how you're going to get from novice all the way up to independent and test standard. I've just noticed I keep doing that, I don't know why.